Jake had only clicked on the video out of boredom. It was late to late and his apartment felt colder than usual. The video, titled, "Do Not Watch This Alone," the last tape of the Hollow Street Kids, barely had 300 views. The thumbnail was simple. A still image of an old stairwell soaked in shadow with a pale blur barely visible near the top step. He pressed play, expecting cheap jump scares and low-effort editing. Instead, it opened with grainy footage and unsettling silence. No music, just faint breathing. Then a floorboard creaked. A whisper, unintelligible but wet, slid through the speakers. He leaned in. The metallic temps, like blood in the back of his throat, made him gag. The camera flickered, showing something standing at the bottom of the stair stall, rigid, face obscured. The scent of something foul rose from his vents rot and copper, as if something had died between the walls. He blinked and swore he saw the thing twitch. Then came the screaming, human, shredded. It lasted only 6 seconds, but it felt endless. Then silence again, screen of pure black. But the dread didn't fade. His cursor hovered to close it when something new flashed. A single frame, burnt pages, Latin scrawled in blood, Videntes sunt clausi. He Googled it. The Watchers are trapped. Local lore from his grandmother's village in Baluchistan told of the ones sealed behind silence, spirits bound in darkness, enraged when seen. The elders had once tried salt circles and sleep chants, but they'd failed. Never record the Watchers, she used to warn. They record you back. Jake's laptop fan began worried violently. The screen dimmed. Cold breath kissed the back of his neck. Then he noticed the upload dates said tomorrow, but whose voice was whispering his name from inside the screen? Asterisk, Jake's apartment had always been run down, but now it felt wrong. The walls seemed closer, sagging inward like they were holding their breath. Faint creaking echoed overhead, though the floor above had been vacant for months. The air was thick, with an acrid blend of mildew and something metallic-like, rusted nails soaked in stagnant water. He touched the wall absent-mindedly. It was damp, cold. A slick layer of something oily clung to his fingertips, and the taste of bile rose in his throat. He tried to laugh it off. Maybe the building was just falling apart. Maybe that video had messed with his head. He cracked open the window for fresh air. For a moment, the chill cleared his mind. But then he noticed the vents hissing softly, whispering in rhythm, like breathing. No, not breathing chanting. Pharaoh, in a language that didn't belong in this century. He'd grown up hearing stories from his grandmother, tales of cursed footage and shadow-bound spirits that entered through the eyes. She warned of the Nazara Kalam, the cursed speech of the unseen. Rituals existed, she said, smoke, saffron ink, mirrors covered in dust, but even they had failed in some villages. Don't just watch evil, she would whisper. It watches harder. Reflection in the black screen flickered. For a second, he saw someone else, someone watching him. His heart raced. He yanked the power cord from his laptop. Silence, relief, but then his phone buzzed. A notification, video upload, failed. Retrying, ... He hadn't uploaded anything. Temperature dropped. Frost began forming on the inside of the window, blooming into unfamiliar symbols. His breath fogged, but the fog didn't rise, fell. It's like smoke sinking. Then came 3 slow knocks from inside the closet, but he didn't have a closet. Jake jolted awake on the couch, heart pounding, throat dry. He didn't remember falling asleep. The apartment was darker than it should have been like. The lights were on, but afraid to shine. Low hum vibrated through the floorboards, steady and pulsing like a heartbeat. Then came a whisper, thin and papery, from the far corner of the room. He saw us. He shot up, dizzy. The taste of rust and old pennies clinging to his tongue. The air smelled like burned cloth and something deeper sweet, rotting, like meat left too long in a hot drawer. The corners of the room seemed darker than before, shadows stretching unnaturally toward him. Turned toward the whisper, but nothing was there. It's a small cardboard box he didn't remember owning. Inside were charred scraps of paper fragments of an old journal, written in 2 languages, English and something else. He read what he could. The footage burns the skin of the world. Don't let it finish. Don't look at the last frame. The pages smelled of smoke and salt. His fingers tingled. One scrap read, recorded in the dust. House. All 12 screamed. Jake laughed nervously. Someone's sick idea of a prank. He shoved the box away and stood up. The walls sighed. Then the lights flickered once, twice, and steadied. The false sense of calm returned. He went to the bathroom to splash his face. The mirror was fogged, since he hadn't run water. He wiped it clean and saw someone behind him. No, something. Blurred. Watching. Smiling without a mouth. He spun around. Nothing. Just peeling. Wallpaper and the soft drip of the faucet. Maybe he was tired. Hallucinating. Yeah, that had to be it. But when he looked back at the mirror, words were already inside, were scrawled and steamed, and the door slammed shut behind him. Asterisk. Jake didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the muffled tape hiss, soft breathing, static whispering in a guttural, scraping dialect that didn't belong in any human throat. He scoured forums and dark web threads, chasing breadcrumbs, hollow street kids, dust house, recordings that eat the soul. The deeper he searched, the colder his apartment became, like the walls themselves were exhaling frost. A thread on an old supernatural forum caught his attention. One post mentioned the dust house, an abandoned school in a desert town, once a shelter during the 1960s for displaced children. The building had collapsed after a fire that killed 12. The final moments caught on reel-to-reel tape by a researcher documenting childhood trauma. That tape was said to never truly end. Watched to completion, it finished you, not instantly. It unraveled your realities, slow, cruel, precise. Jake's lights flickered as he read. The bulb above him buzzed like a fly trapped inside glass. The ceiling dripped. No pipe above. Blood-thin liquid trailing down the plaster like tears. He gagged as the copper temps of it filled his mouth. He spit. No blood. Just bile, bitter and rising. He lit incense, an old trick his grandmother once taught him for driving out bad winds. For a moment, the apartment felt lighter, warmer, safe. He even chuckled. Shaky. Losing it, man. Then his screen glitched. The video, the same one, was playing again. He hadn't touched it. This time, it showed new footage. A basement, chains on the wall, scratched words in the stone. We screamed until we were inside the tape. Jake reached to close it, but his fingers passed through the mouse, and a child's voice behind him whispered, "Want to see what they saw?" Asterisk. Jake barely recognized himself in the mirror, now sunken eyes, skin graying, lips cracked and dry like crumbling leaves. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. Every time he tried, the food turned to ash in his mouth, or worse, warm copper, like licking an old knife. The air in the apartment was thick, syrupy, stank of decay and burnt plastic, layered with a metallic rot that clung to his clothes and hair. Even his sweat smelled wrong, sour, dead. He heard it again that night, of faint scratching under the floorboards, thin whispers crawling up through the vents, speaking in sync with his breath. The walls pulsed. The floor shifted beneath his feet, soft and wet in patches like old meat. His laptop screen flickered violently. The tape was there again, but now someone was calling his name from inside the video. He screamed and threw the laptop across the room. Shattered. Silence. Then. A child's laugh. Desperate, Jake lit every candle he had. He recited the protective prayer his grandmother once made him memorize in Urdu, her voice trembling in memory. Jodak, wo, gum ho, yada hai. He who watches is lost. The flames steadied. For the first time in days, the air felt clear. He collapsed to the floor, sobbing. Hope, real or imagined, began to flutter in his chest until the lights blew out tall at once. Wind screamed through the sealed windows. The tape played on the broken screen. Jake watched, helpless, as the children on the video turned their heads in unison toward him. One girl, pale and eyeless, whispered, "You're watching us now. It means you're part of us." His phone buzzed again. It was a FaceTime call from his own number. Jake didn't remember falling asleep, but he woke in darkness, no candles, no working power. It's the sticky chill of air that reeked of old copper, damp wood, and something worse, the stench of rot buried deep, like a body sealed in drywall. His mouth was coated in bitterness, like he'd been chewing metal and bile in his sleep. The floor was wet beneath his palms, slick, cold. He dared not ask what it was, compelled by something beyond reason. Jake followed the whispers, trailing through the walls. They came and went, like breath on glass, forming words he couldn't fully understand. Down in the building's basement, a space he'd never dared enter, he found a rusted door ajar. Inside, time had collapsed. Mold devoured the walls. A film of soot covered everything. The smell of burnt fabric and charred paper filled his lungs. In the center of the room was a crate. Inside, reels of film, ash-covered dolls, and a small, melted recorder fused with bone, child's jawbone specifically, scorched, fused into the metal. Beneath it lay a diary, brittle with age, its pages warped and crusted in dried blood. He flipped it open with shaking fingers. They said the chance would hold her. Read the looping cursive. They buried her voice in the tape, but she's still hungry. She wants us to listen. Jake's vision blurred. For a moment, he stood. In the past, inside the burning school, children screaming, walls bleeding black ink. He saw her, the girl, not a ghost of force, mouth sewn shut, eyes bleeding light. He gasped and dropped the diary. The room was quiet, dear, still, even peaceful. Then the dolls turned their heads, all at once, and one whispered, "She knows you found her mouth." Asterisk, Jake ran up the basement stairs, through the pitch-black hallway that seemed to stretch longer than before. The floorboards beneath him groaning like something alive. The copper stink chased him, thickening with every step, coating his tongue with the sharp taste of blood. His fingers brushed against the walls as he stumbled. They pulsed under his touch, warm, wet, and breathing. When he reached his apartment, he slammed the door shut, locking it twice, then 3 times. Silence, then a laugh, soft, girlish. He turned and found the tape had reappeared on the table. It was burned, melted at the edges. But now, his name was written on the label in that same childish cursive from the diary. Panic clawed at his chest. His mind screamed for it. Logic for an explanation. He opened his laptop, only static. Opened his phone, only the last frame of the video. Children screaming, faces warped, mouths gaping too wide. Behind him, the girl, always the girl, the one with no eyes, her sewn mouth now split open in a grin. And Jake remembered the legend. A local tale whispered by Karachi's old residents, Bachan Ki Raat, the night of the children. A fire in 1974 that claimed the school and every soul inside. A failed exorcism. Rituals conducted in secret using reels of cursed film meant to trap the children's spirits. One priest tried to burn the final tape. He vanished. Jake clung to that. If fire failed before, maybe something else would work. Salt. Scripture. Hope. He scattered sea salt across the tape, whispered prayers in trembling Urdu. For a moment, everything stopped. Then blood began seeping from the laptop screen. It pooled over the salt, sizzled. A notification appeared. Uploading complete. And beneath it, viewed by one. But Jake hadn't clicked anything. Asterisk. Jake didn't scream at first. He simply froze, staring at the screen as blood trickled from the USB port, thick and syrupy, dripping onto his lap. It smelled of rot and copper, fresh, raw. The taste hit the back of his throat like bile, choking him. The room's temperature plummeted. Frost formed along the baseboards. His breath came in white clouds, but the walls sweated blood. Slow at first, then gushing. The whispers began again, but now they were behind him, in his ear, his childlike voices, humming broken lullabies. The ceiling cracked above him with a sickening groan, as though something massive had landed on the roof. He ran to the window. Black fog curled outside like tendrils, wrapping the building in silence. The laptop buzzed violently. The screen flickered, showing visions Jake couldn't shut out. Children screaming in a classroom, clawing at the walls as flames surrounded them. A nun stood before them, eyes rolled back, chanting ancient verses. Her voice cracked, then silence, but one child in the back, standing perfectly still, smiling. Jake tore his gaze away. He tried to unplug the laptop, ripped the battery out, smashed the screen, but the keys burned his fingers hot, sticky. His skin blistered. He stumbled back. The apartment was gone. The layout had changed. The door had vanished. The walls were bleeding from every crack, whispering with mouths that hadn't been there before, mouths with tiny teeth. He recited prayers he barely remembered. Bismillah, ... Bismillah. He clutched the tape to his chest. The whispers paused. The lights flickered. The fog outside pulled back. Relief bloomed in him too fast. Then came the scream, not from outside, from inside the tape. And when he looked down, the reels were turning, but the tape had no end. Asterisk. Jake barely remembered. Falling. One moment, he was upright, clutching the tape. The next, the world had twisted. He lay sprawled on the apartment floor, what was left of it. The floorboards had rotted to black pulp, slick with bile. Every surface pulsed like infected flesh. The air reeked of wet copper and old meat. He tasted iron on his tongue, his lips crusted with blood that wasn't his. The whispers were louder now, rhythmic, circling. A child's laughter echoed from inside the walls, followed by the dragging sound of tiny fingernails against wood. Play it again, the voice whispered. Play it until you understand. Jake curled into himself, sobbing. His fingers dug into the floor, scraping over cold bone like ridges beneath the surface. His sanity cracked further when he looked up and saw the doorway. It had returned. Hope, surge, stupid, fragile hope. He scrambled toward it. The hallway was lit now, flickering like candlelight. Familiar, safe. He reached for the knob and opened it, found himself staring into a classroom, charred black. Desks melted into the floor. Burned backpacks. Ashes swirling in the air like gray snow. The same classroom from the visions. The same one from the tape. He stepped back, gagging on the smoke that wasn't really there. On the chalkboard, someone had written in Urdu, "Those who watch must stay." Jake spun around, desperate. Behind him, a girl stood in the apartment's center. Pale skin, hollow eyes, stitches bursting open into a smile. He screamed, but no sound came. On the floor, near his feet, the burnt diary fluttered open to a new page. That hadn't existed before. It was written in his handwriting. They made me record it. And beneath that, I didn't upload it. but I will. Asterisk, the video surfaced online 2 nights later. No one knew who uploaded it. Jake's account was inactive. The IP address untraceable. But the file name said it all. The last tape. It began innocently enough. Static. Then Jake's face appeared, pale and trembling in flickering candlelight. Behind him, shadows shifted like breathing smoke. His voice was barely above a whisper. They showed me everything. I didn't want to, but they need an audience. Viewers watched as the camera panned. The room he filmed in bled down the walls, literally. Red rivulets dripped from unseen cracks, soaking into the floorboards, revealing claw marks. The sounds were worse than the visuals. Whispers in a dozen languages. Footsteps overhead that moved too fast. A high-pitched giggle. Somewhere, something was chewing weightily, methodically. People swore they smelled rot through their screens. One woman fainted after tasting copper in her mouth. The entity's backstory unfolded, not in dialogue, but through brief flashes spliced into the tape. A ruined schoolhouse in Pakistan. Children screaming. A figure stitched from shadows, born of grief and revenge after a fire consumed an orphanage. The locals had tried to trap it in celluloid, an ancient binding ritual using cursed film stock. But someone had digitized the real. Now, the entity was free. Jake's final words, delivered with bleeding gums and wild eyes, were chilling. It needs watchers to live. Every view feeds it. You've watched this far. Now it's watching you. For a moment, screen went black. False relief. Then the scream started. It was endless. Viewers reported hearing it days later, in dreams, in silence, in the static between TV channels. Some those who listened to long said, the girl appeared. In mirrors behind them. The video was deleted by morning, but it uploaded itself under a different name, and someone just hit play.